Bogdan Guskov versus Ryan Spann is an absolute banger of a co-main event, to be honest with you. You know, a co-main event has the ability to take everyone's breath away when the under 1.5 rounds is favored 3-1. We're going to take a look at Guskov versus Ryan Spann, try to bring you a best bet or keep you away from a bad bet. So without further ado, let's get into the recent fights, training, all that kind of stuff, and try and break it down for you guys today.
Oh, Till's out! It's over! It's over! It's over! That's what I'm saying, boy! Oh! He got dropped! It's over! It's over! Munoz! Oh my God!
Start with Bogdan Guskov, who got into the co-main event off of a win against Zach Pauga. He's a powerful fighter, 15 wins, all of them come by finish. He has 13 knockouts, 2 submission wins. The biggest question by far in his entire career, and the reason I bring up how his route to getting to a co-main event slot, is that he has not faced the stiffest of competition on the UFC level. He has fought good opponents regionally in Russia, but he's also suffered some pretty brutal defeats. Back on Fight Nights Global, he suffered a nasty knockout. He was hurt by a jab, and then he got flatlined by an overhand right. It's usually, in Bogdan's fights, it's usually the first one to land the punch, because we haven't seen much in terms of opponents trying to grapple with him. Volkan Ozdemir, in his first UFC fight, had a pretty easy time taking Bogdan down, and once he got him down, but Bogdan did do a good job getting back to his feet, and it wasn't until Volk landed his power shot before Bogdan did that Volk got his back and submitted him. There is a high amount of unknown when it comes to Bogdan Guskov that I really wish we could have seen in more UFC performances. And no matter what, I think that this is a rushed prospect to the co-main event spot. Now, this does work out sometimes in flash knockouts where he can become larger than life after this event. And he has power and style that would make him a fan favorite. But still, it's a little bit too much for me to really push Guskov as the underdog here, even though he does have a pretty intriguing line of around plus 170 to plus 156. When I was looking at his gym, I didn't recognize the name of it, but it does have some good athletes. Shara Bullet Magomedov, who had a great UFC debut. Walter Walker, who, even though had a tough UFC debut, is still a great grappler. So Guskov does train with some elite Russian and Brazilian talent out in Russia, so he may have the potential to have made big strides in his striking game. But I still think it is going to boil down very much to who can land first. I think Ryan Spann will have the advantage grappling, and if he chooses to go that route, that would shake things up a very good bit. But I don't find either guy really engages in the grappling very much unless forced to. If Ryan Spann does implement that in his game plan, he could get a submission that way. But I do think it's either going to be a Bogdan KO or it's going to be a Ryan Spann drops him and submits him, in my opinion, as we've seen that Bogdan's chin is not unbreakable. Neither is Ryan Spann's. It's going to be very interesting. But that's my breakdown for Guskov. Let's take a deep look into a little bit of Ryan Spann. I know it's been a pretty funny trend on social media that this is the 4th fight between Ryan Spann and Anthony Smith. But to be honest, when I was looking at the comparison side by side of Guskov and Anthony Smith, it's actually funny how similar they are, and I really wanted to deep dive into the Anthony Smith fights to maybe see if there is anything we can take away. And to be honest, you dive right in. Orthodox fighter on Anthony Smith. They have identical reaches, even though Smith has 1 inch in height, but that's virtually identical. And then you go ahead and look at it, and I was trying to see if the big right hand was landing for Anthony Smith, and to be honest, the results were pretty clear to me that the right hand, Spann has a difficult time in an orthodox versus orthodox fight to stop the right hand from finding his chin. Now, Ryan Spann does have a great chin and he can take shots, but we have seen him finish by TKO and knockouts. Johnny Walker, who has trained closely with Bogdan, landed some elbows on a takedown attempt. But it is very difficult to finish Ryan Spann in the stand-up, as we've seen in his career against UFC-level talent. The last time that a really significant loss was on his record in the UFC was against Carl Roberson back on the Dana White Contender Series. And you can also take this with a grain of salt, but he's 4-4 against orthodox fighters. He's 4-1 against southpaws. I do think that is a significant thing going into this fight, leading into it. And he's lost 2 fights to Anthony Smith. So if Bogdan didn't didn't have showcasing of chinniness in his past fights and had a little more experience in the UFC, I would be more confident in making a play. But if I was to make a play on either side, I would take Bogdan by TKO, KO, and I would take Ryan Spann by submission. We've seen Ryan Spann have submission skills. He submitted Ian Cutelaba. He almost got a submission against Nikita Krylov, even though he was submitted. He submitted Devin Clark in his career. He submitted Emiliano Sordi. So he does have instances of submitting opponents. So I would take Ryan Spann by submission, especially what we saw with the power puncher and Volkan Ozdemir, what he did with the knockdown and submission of Bogdan. But it is a very, very interesting fight. I do think it's a little closer than the lines may say, so I wouldn't hate on a better taking Bogdan straight up in the spot at around the plus 150 to plus 170, because I do really think, unless Ryan Spann does implement the wrestling, and his gym is very, very good, they do break down opponents well at Fortis MMA, so it's possible that he does come out with a grappling heavy game plan. And if that is the case, he's really going to have to watch out on his entry. He's been finished on multiple occasions, shooting takedowns in the Roberson fight, in the Walker fight. But nonetheless, in the case of the more likely scenario, in my opinion, it's the first one to land a big shot. I think Ryan Spann's chin's a little more tested, even though I think Bogdan's power is a little bit more proven. So it is a very, very interesting fight. I'm excited. The co-main event has great fight feel. The under is heavily favored, and I am just uber excited. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Who do you think is going to win, and what do you think the best bet from the fight is? But that'll do it for today, guys. If you enjoyed, smash that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.